Are you all set?
Yep.
Okay, guys, if you want to go ahead and get started, we'll turn it over to you guys for questions with Coach Rhule.
Hey, Matt, I'll stop with the small talk and ask you some big talk here. How about what's the first like been, and what have you learned from your group in 1 week?
I think everything's gone really well. I think from the testing to the virtual, phase of this to this early acclimation period of weightlifting and meeting, just a bunch of really professional men, guys working really hard, working well together, a lot of great personalities, and I think anyone that saw that Road to Restart show last night, just a Herculean effort by the people in the Panthers organization, led by Eddie Levins, our ops team, Mark Hart, so many different people, just to make this a really safe place. And so what I would say is when you're here day in and day out, I think from our players, everything's being done first class, and I think our players are responding with great energy.
Hey, Matt, go ahead, bud. Go ahead, Jonathan.
Okay, thanks. Hey, Matt, Jonathan Alexander with the Charlotte Observer. Hope you're doing well. We got to talk to DAndre Jackson yesterday, and I was just wondering, what do you believe are the biggest hurdles he faces in year 3 and trying to step up to become that number one cornerback, and what have your conversations with him this offseason centered around?
I think Dante's there. I don't think there's any, I think obviously, we all have to improve and get better throughout this season, but his maturity, his approach, I didn't know him before, so I can't talk about anything before. I can talk about what I see right now. I see a competitive, talented, tough, grown man that's, really ready to go be a play in, play out corner, day in, day out corner. So he's been one of the real bright spots to me. His maturity, his toughness, his leadership, his work ethic are all so far have been outstanding, and I think his best football is about to be played.
Matt, we talked to a bunch of players this week, and every single one of them said Teddy Bridgewater is a natural-born leader. What have you seen in this first week of camp from him?
He's just a lot of fun to be around. It's all ball. I mean, he if a meeting goes till 8, you can bet he's going to be in there at 8:30, 9 o'clock still. He loves football. He loves teammates. He loves leading. He loves people. My son came in, help out as a ball boy. My son's 15, within 5 minutes, Teddy knows his name. I mean, he's just one of those people, right? And so, and on the practice field, man, he's competitive. He's professional. In a day and age where players are always asking for music, he told me today, he goes, turn the music off. He goes, we're not ready for that yet. He's really, really, really serious about getting the football right. So I'm really pleased.
Matt,
Hey, Matt,
along those same lines, Teddy brought in a lot of the offense. It looked like to kind of a separate, almost like mini camp that he ran. What does that say to you about him as a leader? And do you encourage that kind of, those kind of activities for your team to grow?
Well, I didn't encourage that, because that was the NFLPA. I know asked the players not to do that, and so just any chance I got, I told guys, hey, let's be really smart about social distancing and all those things. But I also understand as professional athletes, they're trying to get ready to play, and the biggest thing is with Teddy and with all the guys, the approach on offense. They know they have great talent. They know they have great weapons, but what we don't have is we don't have a lot of experience together. What we don't have is we don't have a ton of time. And so, we certainly want to be one of those football teams that gets better as the year goes on, but we can't waste time right now. So I think them getting together on their own said, hey, we realize we can't waste time.
Coach, in an attempt to try and maximize the time, though, how much have you found this first week to be more about conditioning versus the actual football?
You know what? They came in really good shape. I mean, we ran everybody the first day. There's no conditioning tests this year, but just we started off and we had a plan to ease guys in. Guys showed up in shape. The rookies showed up a week early. We took advantage of that. The quarterback showed up 2 days later, but everyone showed up here I think in really good condition. So we're able to start a step ahead and take off. And so we're trying to do really 3 things. Make sure that our bodies are ready from a strength, weight, conditioning standpoint. make sure that, we have the football right. And then also that we're building a team, that we understand each other. This is a different year. You're not bringing guys in for tryouts and physicals and all those different things. There's a lot of different rules. And so the people that are here, we've got to come together. And I mean, we're telling guys like, hey, if you've never played offense before, we're going to do 5 minutes of offense with you. This in a year with COVID where you might have to build from within. Like we're approaching this not even like a college football team, like a high school football team in terms of the more you can do, the more you can do. And so we're just trying to build that camaraderie, get the football right, and also make sure our players are as healthy as possible. But a lot of credit goes to them with the way they showed up.
Matt, do you feel like you can get the evaluation that you need with all these players? I mean, just from the standpoint of you haven't had that much time with them, and has that process really already started since you've been able to get them on the field?
Yeah, I think it started day one. I think it starts in the meetings. You see who's serious, you see what people know, and then you get out in the field with them and you see who's playing at what level, how you can help guys get better. This isn't one of those deals where it's just like, oh, he's good enough, he's not. I mean, we're trying to make sure as a coaching staff, our purpose is to help each player play better. And so, we're following them day in and day out. The guys are working really hard. I mean, there's a lot of, we're taking advantage of every minute of every day. This isn't country club training camp, and they're answering the call.
Is there any particular player so far, or players that you've noticed kind of taking on that vocal role, that leadership role, even through 1 week? And if so, has any of them been young guys, year one, year two guys that have been speaking up?
I don't necessarily know. I don't know if we're in a place yet of guys speaking up. I mean, there's guys that are certainly vocal. I mean, when you have a team with guys like Trey Boston and Shaq and, KK and, Dante, I mean, every position probably has a guy that, speaks up. And then, on offense, Paradis and Okun, Teddy. There's certainly guys that talk. I think the biggest thing right now is it's new and no one really knows what to expect from each other. They didn't know what to expect from me. And so, the great teams right now, everyone comes out and they're really deliberate in their practice and they're all about the details. And so, you watch guys like McCaffrey, you watch guys like, my first time being around DJ Moore. I mean, these guys are really, really, detailed and deliberate about, hey, this is what I need to get better at today. And so I think if we have that approach, what you want to do is you want to kind of build this, cauldron of competition where everyone's holding themselves accountable to get just a little bit better every day, where, we don't need a bunch of passionate, fiery speeches. What we need is a work ethic and a toughness and a brand. And I've seen that so far. I've been really pleased with that.
Matt, I know that you want competition at every position, naturally, especially this year. But are there one or two of them that you think are really critical? You're keeping a particular eye on?
Yeah, I think the tight end room, I think Chris Manhurst has a chance to be one of the best blocking tight ends in the National Football League, if not the best. And he's done a really nice job of improving as a pass catcher. It's Ian Thomas's turn, to really show it's his time to go play and show what he can do. And then that battle for that third tight end. And, we're taking kind of Joe's offense and it's kind of has a Saints derivative, but then you throw in, what he did at LSU, which is a lot more 3 receivers. I come here from Baylor, which is a lot more 3 and 4 receivers. Some of our guys are, even going back to Temple, 22 personnel. So we're just trying to, find, who we are, what exactly we are. And so with that, I think that tight end position is really critical. And I think, that running back room behind Christian, how can we utilize Mike Davis, Reggie Bonifant, Jordan Scarlett? What ways can those guys go impact the game? So I think tight ends and running backs, not just who the starter is, but how we're going to use everyone's really critical.
Hey, Matt, the backup quarterback position in the last couple of years here in Carolina has been pretty important. It's basically been the starting spot. What's that competition looking like, and what can you say on that so far?
I think, obviously Will's been here. He's got a chance to play in some football games. We have a lot of confidence in him. PJ, is a talented guy, did great things in the XFL. And I think right now they're both, obviously they don't have the knowledge and the grasp of the system that Teddy has. I think what you're seeing from both those guys is really just a commitment to learning the system, getting a little bit more confident every day. But I think we feel really good about that room, to have those 3 guys in a room, to have Teddy, who's been a starter, who's won a ton of games, Will, who's had a lot of production, and PJ, who's really talented. To have those 3 guys, I think we're really blessed to have that room. And so we're going to battle it out throughout camp. No preseason games. It'll come down to each and every day in practice, but I feel good about having that competition.
Hey, Matt, to kind of go off that, how do you guys kind of plan on splitting up the reps without having preseason games to see that competition unfold?
Yeah, it's going to have to be a lot of offense versus defense. It's going to have to be – we're going to work off like two groups, ones and a twos, and just kind of split guys from there. And obviously there's guys who are entrenched, maybe don't need as many reps. There's some other guys that are, trying to solidify themselves as bona fide starters, and then guys fighting for jobs. So we'll have to have a really competitive camp, to have a good team.
Hey, Coach, there's been a lot of unusual circumstances as you prepare for your first season in the NFL. What pleasant surprises have you encountered so far with this team?
Just how much kind of fun they are to be around. I mean, honestly, it's kind of weird. I don't think any of these guys have even seen my face, in person yet. I constantly have my mask on, as you can see, I'm kind of rubbing my eyes. I'm dealing with I got a cut in my eyes. So I'm wearing sunglasses all the time. So I don't think anyone's really even seen my face, but even instantly there's a great feeling in this building, I'd say, just being around the guys and watching them interact. And, teams aren't, games aren't won by coaches. Games are won by players. I believe that players win games. And when you have a bunch of players who are committed to a process, but also have great chemistry, you have a really good chance to win. And so I just have enjoyed being around them. A lot of times as a coach, you get in there early. We're all coming through testing lines and all these different rules. So we're seeing each other a lot, and it's been a lot of fun. So I like the vibe that we have. We got to hit the dog days of camp and really start to grind to really, truly come together, though.
One player that you mentioned earlier this summer was that you were excited to work with is F.A. Obada. what have you been able to see from him through this first week?
I think he's had a tremendous offseason. He's up to about 275 pounds, explosive, really committed to being a good player. And he's somebody that we feel like we can use in a lot of different places. He could be a defensive end. He can go inside and be a sub. Defensive tackle, can play in an odd package, can play in a 4-down package. I think he's going to have a really nice year for us. And I say that based upon all the work he did this offseason.
Brian Burns is someone who's kind of coming off like a mixed season. He had a good start to his rookie year, but how do you kind of see him kind of emerging, and what have been your first impressions of him?
I knew Brian's talent, but he takes the game very seriously, and showing up, he showed up having put on some weight, which is one of the keys to him, right? He's always going to be a great rusher, but we want him to be a complete and total defensive, player. And I think when you show up with the weight that he put on, you're basically saying, hey, I want to do this. And so I like watching him out there. I think he's going to have a special year.
On that note, what does KK Short being healthy and Derek Brown, you drafting him, pushing the pocket, do for a guy on the edge like Brian Burns?
Makes it a lot more fun. They can't just run you by and step up in the pocket. KK to me is one of the leaders of this football team. He's one of the guys that I trust. He's down to about 315, 312 pounds. That's all pro weight for him, and he's done it with hard work. He's quiet. He's a consummate professional. He's always working at something. I'm excited about KK, and to have a guy like Derek learning from KK. And I like that, we have a young D-line. We drafted Derek Brown. We drafted Yetur Gross-Matos. We drafted Bravion Roy. We signed Miles Adams as an undrafted free agent who's been a really nice surprise. And when they come to work every day and see what KK does, it's real clear, hey, here's the standard. And we got a lot of other veteran D-linemen just like that. So the D-line room for me is one that not just talent-wise, but also just process-wise is doing things the right way.
Hey, Matt, I know that you have a long history with Shaq Thompson, but I'm curious your early impressions of him as a leader. I'm sure you got a sense of that in the Zoom calls and the virtual stuff, but seeing him on the field, can you speak to maybe both sides of that in regards to?
Yeah, I think for me, leadership to me, I don't ever, there's being a spokesman and there's being a leader, right? Like a lot of guys who talk a lot aren't necessarily the leaders. Leaders are the ones who, people follow into dire circumstances. Leaders are the ones who are out front. And maybe they don't even have to say a lot, but they do a lot. And that to me, when Shaq showed up early and reported early with the injury guys and is out there every day with the rookies and is doing things right, like that's leadership. And, I know he had 100 tackles last year. I know he had some real production last year and he wants to continue to do that. But seeing the way he's taking care of his body, seeing the way he approaches his work every day, seeing him when he comes in early in the morning, he's in there, he's in the weight room talking to the old lineman, talking to this position. He's connecting with people on the team. That's real leadership. It's not – a lot of people just think getting up and giving these speeches. Anybody can do that. Sometimes people roll their eyes at those guys. he's doing it day in and day out so far. And so, I think for us, it's our job as coaches to support him by helping him play his best football. But also, I love his approach because I think it brings others along.
Matt, speaking of your defense, and you mentioned all the good pieces, but you got to bring it all together and make it work cohesively. I think your average age is going to be about what maybe a veteran college football team might be. What is the biggest challenge of getting that cohesiveness and getting that young group to play as one?
That's great. It's a great question. It's just experience. Most times, most of us learn from failure way more than success, right? So sometimes you have to go out there and get beat, and then you say, oh, okay, all right, I learned from it. I'm not going to make this mistake again. We don't even have preseason games to do that, so we have to do it from practice. So that's going to be the challenge. We're going to have to count on some of our veteran players to make sure that they hold a standard of, hey, here's how we're going to practice, guys. Here's how we're going to play. But I just think we need time and experience. We just need to keep playing together. And the good news is we do have a lot of guys who played a lot of football, though. Dante's now a veteran. Trey's a veteran. Eli Apple's a veteran. Guys like T.J. Green and Justin Burris, those guys have played a lot of football. So we need guys to step up, and that's the approach I know Phil's taking. Like, hey, let's just not waste a day. Let's not go through the motions. Everything on defense is details and efforts. Let's bring great effort, and let's have great details.
And to follow up on that, I think when Derek Brown got to Auburn, he even mentioned how many new pieces there were there, and that defense took a huge jump from the year before to what it was that year. What did you see if you look back at those years that he was a big part of helping that, and how can he be a big part of that?
I haven't really seen those teams. At the end of the day, big dominant defensive linemen make it a lot easier. You can help guys in the coverage, and I think Derek has you draft somebody, you expect them to be good, obviously, but seeing him live has been outstanding. And it's like anything else as a rookie, you know what I mean? Like, you come in, you got a lot of juice. Now we got to just grind through this, through this training camp, get to the season, and just grind through the year. And so, but there's a good spirit on our defense in terms of, guys are ready to work, which is good.
Matt, you guys have yesterday. Go ahead. I think you guys have 10 linebackers on the roster currently. Aside from guys like Shaq and Tahir, the veterans, what do you see from the battle in that linebacker room? And is there a reason why there are so many? They occupy such a huge amount of space on the roster.
We have a lot of guys that are probably like, cross doing a couple different things, right? So like Chin and some of those guys, like they're playing like the big nickel and playing safety. Sam Franklin's doing that. So sometimes on a depth chart, it looks a little different. But I do think there's a real battle for who the next guys are going to be. Jermaine Carter has done a nice job so far. Andre Smith, JK, there's a lot of guys who've been here. We have brought in some undrafted guys, obviously drafting Chin, bringing in Sam Franklin. Signing out AG the other day, Taylor, who's played a lot of football. So I think we're looking for two things, really. We want some guys who can go in the game and play on defense and give us some legs and run. And also we're looking for, great special teams. We believe that one of our advantages is we're going to try to win with special teams. And so that battle, we're trying to get as many, run and hit bodies in here as possible and really shore up the special teams. So I think that's a place where, I think earlier they asked me, some places, I think backup linebackers are a real competition right now.
Matt, with all the unknowns, what is your biggest concern going into the season?
I just think it kind of hits you when you first get started that, hey, like guys don't even know where to stand at practice to get started because we didn't have all the OTAs and all that stuff. And so how quickly can we get past all of the stuff that normally you would have done in, March and April and May and June and get to the real crux of the matter, which is, hey, we've got to go play well. And how do you play well? You play well by making mistakes, learning from them and moving forward. And so, we'll have to count on some young players. We'll have to count on some guys in some positions. I feel good about all that. My biggest thing is, just our approach and our mindset as a team. Like, I don't want to be known. I don't want us to be known as like a show. Like, we're not here for the show. We're here for the football, and we want to get the football right. And so I've liked our guys' serious approach to that. We've got to maintain that as the games get here and all this stuff starts to happen. Like, can we be a serious football place? My money's yes, we got the right type of guys to do it, but that's the biggest thing that, to me, that has to happen moving forward.
Matt, you have a few guys on the offensive line that have played together as like Matt and Russell and Schofield and obviously all the guys that were here before. Just how much can that help you when it comes to that unit trying to gel?
It's vital. I mean, you walk in those rooms and a lot of those guys played for Pat before. Johnny played for him in Buffalo, and Pat does some things uniquely, and so they understand his system, they understand his way of doing things, and really the offensive line. People think of it as 5 different people. Really, it's how they interact and work together, and Pat does it in a unique way, so they know it, they understand it, and I think we've been pleasantly surprised by even some of the young undrafted guys that have showed up. Guys have really bought into it, and I think they're working really well together.
Matt, with the governor saying this week the phase 3 was at least 5 more weeks away, what are you getting there in the building in terms of fans versus no fans at your home games?
They haven't really said too much to me. I think as I was walking up here, they told me about the that order. I've been so locked in on the football, and I think the biggest thing for me is when that time comes. Obviously, we want to play in front of fans, right? Like, we want all the people who love and support the team to be able to be there, but we also want to be safe. So I think, the approach I've tried to take to all this is, even as these protocols or rules is, things could change on Wednesday. They could be different on Wednesday than they were on Monday, right? Just to constantly be, kind of sticking and moving, bobbing and weaving, just constantly, adjusting to what happens next. That's the person who adjusts the best, and the quickest wins, in this game. And so, if there's no one in the stands, we'll be ready to play. If it's packed, we'll be ready to play.
Just as a quick follow-up, you've been in this now a couple weeks and seeing how the protocols are. What's your sense as to whether you think the NFL can pull this off uninterrupted? And I'd also be curious about your thoughts on the college game as well.
I think when you're in this building every day, I think you walk away saying there's absolutely no doubt that we're going to play football. Now, I can't talk about society at large, right? I don't know what will happen outside. Like, I'm not probably locked in on the news as much as everyone else is because I'm in football. But I think when you're here, you feel a real sense of calm when you're in this building because, A, everyone's being tested, and B, like, we're socially distanced. We're walking around with contact tracers. We're wearing masks. I mean, it's not like people are kind of wearing masks. People are wearing masks. Like, we're taking it so seriously that you feel really comfortable and calm and safe being here. Because, you're not going to be able to prevent everything, but there's a really good system for when something does happen. In terms of college football, I don't know. I mean, I hope it happens. I love college football. If not, I hope it happens in the spring, so that we have a chance to go out and see guys play in the spring. But I know for me, when I'm here, I say to myself, after being in it, just kind of really in it, I'm like, there's no doubt that I think we should be able to make this happen and play a really good football this year. And I think, I think America needs it and is going to love it.
Following up on that, yesterday Dante was saying that you guys are the trackers, they light up red when you're too close to somebody. Have you seen a lot of red light up?
Yeah, and the whole point is that, you're going to get too close to somebody. The whole point is that you want to minimize your contact to less than 15 minutes. And so as I told the team, like, you look at the research, like, someone could walk up to you with, like, terribly, contagious disease and cough in your face. But it's just, if it's one time, your immune system fights it. When it's over time, that viral load builds up. And what we're trying to get guys to understand is football's a game where we're going to be close. We're going to get near each other. But what we want to do is we want to stay less, we want to keep 6 feet apart as much as we can, as often as we can, and just not for more than 15 minutes at a time. And so those trackers do really 2 things. If someone gets sick, we, instead of quarantining the whole building, we can go back and say, okay, who was close to that person? And so then we can quarantine just those people. And then number 2, every night Sean Patton looks at the data and says, okay, where are we having people that are being together for more than 15 minutes? It's not happening on the football field. The football field is one of the safest places in terms of that. It's happening maybe at lunch. It's happening maybe at a meeting. It's happening sometimes in the training room. And so we just keep installing new protocols. Every 10 minutes, every 14 minutes, we blow a horn, people separate, right? And it's not a workaround. It's just really understanding the science of, to spread this disease, you have to be close for an extended period of time. And so we have some red, but it's a great reminder. I mean, what you think is 6 feet is usually about 4 feet. Like I tell our guys, 8 is the new 6, man. Just get apart, spread apart, put a mask on. And I think our guys are doing a really good job at that.
We got time for a couple more, guys.
Matt, you may not even have gotten this far in terms of like what a game would look like for coaching, but I mean, do you think coordinators will be in the booth together? Do you think the sidelines will have some sort of social distancing as well? Have you guys talked about that?
We had a lot of conversations in the summer about, hey, how will this work? How will that work? I think when it comes to the football, as long as it's safe, we're always going to do what the football is. I know Phil's always liked being on the field. I know Joe likes being up in the booth. So I don't think we would ever sacrifice those things. But again, I think the NFL, the NFLPA, the scientists, the doctors, Dr. Sills, our doctors here. I mean, Dr. Nancy Gritter's our team doctor. Like, I trust her implicitly. She's amazing. So when they say to me, hey, this is best practice, or when Eddie said, hey, this is best, we try to incorporate those things. But as of right now, like, I think the way to beat this is just for us, for me as a coach, coaching staff and our staff to really just attack today and make sure that today's safe and that we're distanced and we have our masks and all those things. If we do those things when we get to the games, we'll attack that separate set of protocols as they come.
Said all that, what do you think the reason is you guys have had no positive tests so far? What's the one thing that stands out to you the most?
I honestly, I don't know, to be quite honest. I mean, I think one of the things I've learned, and not about our team, just in general, is a lot of people get tested. I think a lot of people find out they actually had it. They had antibodies in their system. They didn't even realize it. But, I think a lot of, at the end of the day, like, a lot of people, they've been really careful. They've quarantined. They stayed at home. They've worn a mask. They've done the things it takes to not get it. My wife and I and our kids, like, we've tried to be very careful, leading up to the season. And so I think it's key for, every person that works in this building to make sure that A, they do the best they can to stay healthy, and then B, they follow all the protocols. So when something does happen, and something eventually will happen, we don't get everybody sick. We follow the protocols to make sure it's isolated, targeted, and we fix it. And so I think again, a lot of credit goes to all the people that work here at the Panthers. I mean, I can't imagine a safer building.
Coach, thank you so much, guys. Appreciate you taking the time.
Thank you, guys.